Hello, welcome to the Mental Health Attention Initiative. I'm the host of the Talk for Help podcast. Today we will have a casual conversation interview with two high school students and two counselors from Academy of Palumbo in Philadelphia. We will discuss how mental health plays a role for students in school on a day-to-day basis and from a counselor's perspective in order to reduce the stigma of approaching one. I hope this will give you comfort to know that others are feeling the same about balancing so much while keeping their mental health intact. Hi everyone, can each of you please introduce yourself? We can start here and move down.
My name is Xavier and I'm a sophomore at Palumbo.
My name's Chris Donnelly and I am one of the counselors at Palumbo.
My name is Miss Fanning and I am a long-term sub counselor, but certified counselor for the School District of Philadelphia.
Okay, awesome. For both students and counselors, how do you navigate the challenges of addressing mental health concerns in a high school setting?
I think I said looking out for others. So if anybody's showing signs of they're not doing well in school, they're not doing their assignments, they're tired during activities, we should kind of be able to see if they are struggling and provide the help that's in the school for them.
I guess that hands it to us because we're the help that's in the school for them. I think that one of the best ways that we do provide assistance for kids is really kind of being present and visible to the students. I mean, we have very much a drop-in policy, whether it's you want to come in for yourself. I really think more than anything we get other kids coming in, and I'm concerned about my friend necessarily. Our teachers are also really great about being our eyes and ears in school. They probably actually are more referrals than anything else, and they'll call us and they'll be like, "Hey, can you touch base with such and such? I'm concerned about them." So I think it begins with pretty much open doors, people knowing who we are, and then taking it from there.
Yeah, this is my 6th week here, and I think from what I've witnessed, it has been definitely a word of mouth kind of system, just letting people know the availability and what the counseling suite is actually about, and what kids can come in for.
What collaborative efforts have you seen or experienced that were particularly effective in supporting students' mental well-being?
I didn't get an answer for this.
Okay, I do. Last year particularly, I think came to mind when I was looking at this as a question. We had some really tragic events that happened last year. We had the death of 2 students. And I think were it not for a collaborative effort, we as a school community would not have gotten through it. And it started with, I'm not gonna say it started with the counseling team, but we the counselors, Mr. Aaron, Miss Rachel, our STEP team, administration, we all got together. The staff all got together, just to be support for each other. Obviously when things like that, it touches everyone when something like that happens. And that took a team effort in order to be supportive for the whole school. And it was collaborative from the teachers, it was collaborative with the counselors, with the students. We had in the auditorium an opportunity, kids would just come down and there was a whole lot of students really consoling each other, I think that if it weren't for if we tried to do individual things that just would not have worked. And I don't know how well we would have gotten through all of that last year without it really being a collaborative effort on the part of the entire school community.
Again, from what I've witnessed so far, I think the most obvious collaboration has been with the counseling team and the STEP team because they do work together so tightly on a regular basis as their job role to help with mental health. But I've definitely seen from the staff reaching out to, the teachers, the administration reaching out to both counseling and STEP team. And I think the students are part of the collaboration too. Like Don touched on earlier, students referring their friends or coming in and saying, "I'm worried about someone." I think that is part of the collaboration, that they are also working with us.
I think every day is a collaboration here. I really do, and it's all about communication.
Yeah.
And it's whether it's the teacher calling and saying, "Hey, can you check on Xavier for me?" Or something he just seems off today, and things like that, or students doing that. It's I think as a school, it's part of the fabric of who we are. Is really just working together as a team, whatever it is, whether it's something specific for mental health, whether it's something just to celebrate Black History Month, like whatever it is, we get the concept that to be successful, it really takes all of us.
Yeah. What roles do students play in expressing their mental health concerns, and how can counselors create an open and approachable environment?
I think that like students do have like the role of reaching out to the counselors and just like looking for help, and like, you know, if they need it, they should be able to reach out and have no fear of judgment if they reach out, because they do need help. Yeah.
And I think it includes approachability. I think what's really cool about our counseling team is that we're all kind of different. I think we can be like, you know, a lot of times I'm sort of the Labrador Retriever puppy where I'm like, hey, you know, this like very loud and, you know, kind of up in your face. I have a whole other side, but not everybody sees that necessarily. But maybe your approach is more like a Miss Prey, who's a little bit more chill, a little more chill, you know, a little more laid back, or Mr. Eric. You know what I mean? Like, we're all just very different, and I think that that's sort of one of the things that helps with students being able to reach out. We also wear a lot of different hats. So kids, like, I also coach, so kids know me in that avenue, and it's not uncommon for someone who was on a team to bring a friend down. You know, I don't have a necessarily counseling relationship with that person, but they know that I'm maybe not a bad person to talk to, you know, or even someone just like, look, I had one kid over last year, she's like, I know you're a counselor, I don't really know what that means, but I think my friend needs to talk to you. You know what I mean? But they only knew me as the coach per se. So I really think that a lot of time it's the visibility and the approachability that opens that door in the very first place. Also, trust. You know, like, people have to be able to trust you, and so you need a track record. You know, it took a little bit. Miss Fanning was new, and so kids were like, yo, who's that over there? Like, I'm not going to do that. But they've learned very quickly that she is someone that they can trust. She is someone that will listen and that cares and that they can come and talk to. So it's a big deal for a counselor.
Yeah, I think as far as the student's role in advocating for themselves, it is tricky because it's kind of the snake eating its own head when you are in a state of need. And if you are suffering from anxiety, the last thing you want to do is go and tell somebody about that, because it is such an internal battle. If you are suffering from depression, the whole concept of depression is not wanting to do anything about it. So it is detrimental to itself, and it kind of like, it's a battle against yourself to actually ask for help. Asking for help is the opposite of what the disease is. And so those types of things that we do see, that students struggle to ask for help. You know, I think Don touched on like building that trust. The other part of it is talking to your friends, because I think you guys have so many shared experiences that you aren't aware of, because you're all keeping it in, thinking that you're alone in the world. That's kind of the battle of mental health, is thinking that you're isolated. And so sharing it, talking about it, letting somebody see, just letting one person see it so they can kind of guide you in the right direction, to the counselors, to the STEP team, to a teacher who could get you further, you know, those kinds of things. It's just that first step of communication.
And I think a part of the question is like, how do you like make a safe environment? And I was like saying that make like having more personality in like the counselors, so you know that there are people that you can go to in the building that you can talk to, and kind of like clearing the taboo of like mental health. And a lot of people have this feeling of like, oh, mental health isn't real. These feelings are just feelings in my head. They're not like real health concerns, when they are, and they're very real. And we shouldn't have that taboo about mental health. So the people who are struggling with it can get the help they need and won't face judgment for, you know, having those struggles.
And you know what? Representation matters too. It's not a coincidence that the 3 counselors that we have, white, Asian, African American, you know, I mean, that's not a coincidence. it's important not to say that, I can't work with a student who is Asian. I mean, that's like saying like, I've never had a drug problem, but I can't work with somebody who does drugs, But still, oftentimes for kids, it's just that's sometimes that first exterior, and wanting to see that is like that comfort that I think is helpful for opening the door. But 100% students, referral, like that kind of thing, like having a relationship with someone, with a student who then is like, no, they're okay. Like you go talk to them, like that kind of thing is the biggest part, without a doubt.
Yeah. Building on to that, in what ways can a school community collectively contribute to building a supportive environment where students can seek help for mental health concerns without fear of judgment?
I said that like students should be more open-minded to others, and like kind of connecting to what I said previously, like clearing that taboo of mental health, and building the school community to be more accepting of others, and especially like how they're feeling, so they can get the help they need. And I said like community building activities, like field day, for example, kind of brings a sense of like community, and can bring a sense of community, which can like benefit healthy relationships, and it's like a good way for students to like reduce judgment by building that sense of community.
I think normalizing mental health, for sure. And again, it's sort of that visibility as well. Something like we never had a mental health awareness club, and now we do. So it really starts to normalize. Like, let's face it, every single person has mental health issues, really and truly, whether it means it's something very severe, like I see a doctor and I have a diagnosis, all that, or I'm just having a bad day, I'm bummed, I'm depressed today, I'm sad today, or I had a death in the family, I'm experiencing grief. Like, all of that is very, very real, and the more that we can accept that that's a part of life for everyone, I think that serves to normalize it for people and make it a little bit more okay to talk about, because you're not like, oh my God, this is only me. You guarantee it's not only you, 100%, not only you.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a whole lot to contribute in addition to theirs because I think they covered it.
You're going first next time.
Just an add-on, like in the same vein of like not making it taboo. I think also it's really important for students and adults to understand how damaging it can be to joke about mental health, because you don't know what somebody else is struggling with, and so saying something very casual like, oh, I'm just really bipolar today.
Welcome. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Oh, hi guys. I'm Trinity Lewis. I'm in 11th grade. Yeah.
Hi, Trinity.
Okay, so my next question is, how can counselors help students develop resilience and effective coping mechanisms for dealing with stress and mental health challenges?
You want to take that one first, Amy?
I think that like encouraging like the one-on-one timeframes for like the students and counselors to talk is really beneficial, and I know that's really helpful to a lot of my friends, and I know a lot of people who have like reached out to the counselors and went to their office, and they come out and they feel better than ever.
Oh, shucks.
Resilience is one of my favorite things to hear other people talk about, because it's I think everybody has kind of a different view of what it actually looks like. For me, the reality is that we all have hard days. We all have hard periods in our life, and just because you are suffering doesn't mean that you are not functioning and coping too. I think that's something that a lot of students kind of get wrapped up in, like, if I'm feeling this way, then I'm in crisis. Where I try to point out to students the points that they really are using their coping tools, and I try to give them praise for that. Like, you have been doing X, Y, and Z, you have been managing your stress, so let's go back to those steps and try to, retrace them again, and just kind of like reutilizing the tools that have already worked for you so well. Give yourself credit for how much you are managing. Well, and I also don't want to invalidate what they are actually feeling in the moment. So,
yeah, kids are more resilient than I think we give them credit for a lot of times. And there's definitely, like, oftentimes with someone, like, you've already used skills of resiliency, and like Ms. Fanning was saying, and you don't even realize it, you know. So a lot of times with kids coming in, it's just helping them to recognize that, the tools that they really already have. And then certainly when it's like, no, they're totally overwhelmed. I mean, then there's other things. I mean, there's a reason why we all paid a lot of money to go to school and get this, you know, whole school counseling thing. You know, whether it's what works for you. Like, what works for me is not what works for you. Like, maybe for me, and that's what we try and get to with the student. Like, what helps you to calm down? Like, in your spare time, like, what do you do? Do you like listening to music? Like, when I was in school, I would, oddly enough, I would just exhaust myself. I would go to a basketball court and I would run up and down doing layups to exhaust myself. That's how I would overcome things, like when I felt really, really overwhelmed, and that helped me get all of that energy out. So it's like finding, for some kids it's writing poetry, for some kids it's well, we try not to always be sleeping, you know, but whatever it is that is specific to you to help people. Like, some it's breathing exercises, some kids love mindfulness, some kids love yoga, some whatever. So it's really helping the student to find what can work for them, and oftentimes it's things that you already use and you just don't know that that's what it is.
Trinity, would you like to add anything?
I definitely agree with all your points, because I feel like one way that counselors can help more is like not necessarily generalizing like one thing, like, oh, you guys have mental health issues, it's all one, like, write about it, because that's not going to work for everybody. Like, some people just don't have sports that they could go to. Some people don't have writing skills that they could go to. So I feel like just kind of what you said, like just understanding who you are and what helps, and then how to, you know, use that in your everyday life to make sure you're not overstressed.
And I think that's part of the problem, Trin, sometimes, is that where students struggle is they try things that their friends are doing, and it's like, that's just not working for me.
Right.
Well, because we're all different people.
Or it's like an unhealthy coping mechanism.
Or absolutely, it's an
Because
unhealthy coping mechanism, sure.
I hear that people are like, oh, I cut, and that is like an unhealthy coping mechanism that they share with their friends, and you know, that kind of practice of coping is like, how much do you hear about people cutting nowadays? It's like a very well-known thing, and how that's not a healthy coping mechanism, and how there are healthier ways to, you know, cope with that overstress.
Sure, and what do we see? I mean, what's out there all the time in TV and movies and everything you listen to? It's like drinking, smoking, drugs, you know, all that kind of stuff. And it's a lot of the unhealthy kind of things that are out there as the model for everybody, you know. You know, or even, it's funny, a student that's overwhelmed, you say cutting and you mean like, you know, physical, right? Students that are overwhelmed, they cut class. Is that a healthy mechanism? Is that a healthy? No, because what happens, it's avoidance, and then what happens? Now you come to class, or now you're like, oh, I have a test, and I cut, and now you don't want to do it the next day. So now one incident turns into two incidents, turns into the next thing you know, I got a week of Xavier not going to class, and Xavier's afraid to go to class because he doesn't want to show his face. So people do things oftentimes, like every day, that are unhealthy, as opposed to, we always say, hey, if you're, and it goes for everybody in school, you're feeling stressed, come and see us. You know, I can make that call to that teacher and just be like, hey, you know, Trinity's having a rough day. She's just going to hang down here a little bit. And what does Trinity learn from that? She learns that, A, there's a place that she can go to when she's feeling overwhelmed. And like, let me just hide in the bathroom is not the best thing. Because then you get an in-house suspension. You know what I mean? Like, it's some of those unhealthy things that aren't as, you know, people deem like, well, not so unhealthy. Yeah, it is. Because it just starts the ball rolling in a negative way.
I worked at a domestic violence center in Philadelphia. There's like 4 big agencies, and one of my favorite tools that they enforced all of the staff to do, and I now tell students to do, is if you struggle in the moment with identifying one of those things to help you decompress, keep a note card on you. So just like a 3x5, write down 5 things that you can do that take 5 to 10 minutes to decompress. And so that way it is your own personal list. So for me, it's listening to calming music. It's reading a book for a couple minutes. It's going for a walk around the halls. Like something that I can just get that energy out or let my body kind of release whatever negative stuff is going on with me. On the back side of the card, you list 5 things that are bigger activities that are just like a regular healthy activity for you to do. So whether it's exercising, yoga, reading for a longer stretch of time, spending time with friends, like what are things that really bring you joy and like really release that dopamine in your brain. So it's something that you can, in your moment of feeling really down or feeling really panicked, you're just kind of like stuck in yourself, you can whip that card out. You don't have to think off the top of your head because your brain isn't working right then, right? So it's a good, useful tool.
Yeah, those are all great responses. From a student's perspective, what strategies have you found helpful in building resilience and managing stress during high school?
I think that like taking time to myself and like reflecting, just taking a minute to remove myself from the situation and just reflecting on what has happened and what I need to do to calm down, either if it's like listening to music or like just playing a game for like a few seconds on my phone. It really helps me to decompress and get my head straight. And I said that like sticking to a routine, I think gives me a little bit of that extra bit of control in my life, and it kind of helps me, build resilience, and it helps me make sure that I'm doing what I need to do, and that helps with my mental health. I know a lot. I just make sure that I'm managing my time well, which also kind of manages like stress, especially during high school when I have all these assignments to do. I make sure that I put time into those assignments, and I make sure that I get them done, and that really helps me just clear my head and kind of reduces stress.
I think for me, I definitely do take a lot of time with myself because I just know how I am, and sometimes just coming to school and like trying to do work on top of receiving work is just not my thing. So I definitely do take a lot of days off. I'm not even gonna say I definitely do.
Appreciate your honesty.
And it's like I always get my work done too, but sometimes I just want to like be in my own space while being able to do it. And also kind of what you said, having a routine. I know every night I go home, I do my skincare, because even when life does feel out of control, that's something I can control. Like that's something I can do. Something that just for me. I also like read a lot. So it's like even when I don't want to do schoolwork and it's like I just want to chill, I get a book, I put on my favorite show, I do skincare, I build something for myself when I feel like stuff is being taken away from me. So like mental health days for me is like my number one priority. I do it all the time.
And Oregon, I think in 2017, put out a law saying that students with permission by their parents are allowed to take those mental health days, and it was originally like 3 days for a month, and then they reduced it to 3 days for a time period of 5 months. But they can take those mental health days for themselves to get done what they need to do. And if school is just too much stress going there, and like you can't like do all the work and get more work on top of that, like those mental health days are very helpful for students.
Xavier for president 2036. I'm voting.
How do peer support dynamics impact mental health in high school, and how can both students and counselor encourage positive peer interactions?
I think something like the counselor said, like knowing like healthy ways to knowing healthy ways to cope and sharing those healthy ways to cope with students is like kind of helpful. And like they can even like teach their friends like those healthy. We're making sure that it's healthy ways to cope. They're teaching their friends those like ways, and
I'm going to say something really unpopular right now. I hate social media. Like I hate it, and with a passion. And I believe that social media can be very good, but I think that phones and the way that we as a community use them are a huge contributor to the downward slide of mental health. Sitting and being present. Like I'm sitting here just, kind of having an out-of-body experience a little bit. I might get emotional on this one. A little out-of-body experience, like of, here's, 4 kids, 2 staff members sitting here doing it. Like, this is freaking awesome, right? And yet you walk in the cafeteria and kids are sitting at a table, and what's everybody? Everybody's on their phone. Like, I see kids texting people that are sitting next to them. Open your mouth and have a conversation, and I feel like that is something that is a lost art right now. The dangers of texting. You send a text, and how many times this has happened to every single one of us, I guarantee it. You send something, and what you mean and what the person reads are 2 completely different things. And what should have been a nothing is a something all of a sudden, right? And I feel like getting back to like an in-person kind of thing.
My next question is, from a counselor's perspective, how can you actively promote help-seeking behaviors among students?
Well, one of the things that we've been working on is getting a referral system out for teachers, and it might be worth it to look into how we can get students on board with that too, referring each other when they feel concerned for a friend or just a peer. I think that kind of goes back to your previous question of surrounding yourself with people that are supportive, having friends that will draw attention to someone that can help you, whether it's, as student to student telling your friends, I think that you need to talk to someone, or going to that adult and saying, can you please talk to them? Can you check in with them? They've been different, or they seem down, or their behavior's different.
I think we're fortunate. I really do at Palumbo, and I say this at every we do the open houses and stuff. I really feel like a significant majority, I'm not going to say everyone, but a significant majority of our students, and we did this a couple of years ago, if you said to them, who's your person on this, teacher-wise, I really feel like the majority of our students can name a teacher that they feel like they can talk to if there's really a problem. And I say that what I say is that I think that our teachers pay attention too much in kids' perspective, because not a week goes by. I mean, sometimes not a day goes by when there isn't something from the teacher saying hey, can you check on Doha? She seems off today. Something like that. Our teachers pay attention to the kids, and I think that is a huge help for our students. Some of you wish they didn't pay so much attention to what you do. You just want to slide under the radar, and our teachers don't like that. And I know from talking to other counselors, I know that we are very fortunate in that. I mean, I've had dialogue with other counselors at other schools, and I say some things to them about that, and they're like, wait, what? Your teachers what? And it's almost maybe there's a handful of teachers that's the case, but I really mean, you can go into any classroom here at a teacher's free period. There's always kids in there, right? Always kids in there. And I think that that's one of the real positives of Palumbo, and I think that really helps to contribute to a more healthy student, a more healthy atmosphere, and that open door about, you talk about promoting the mental health, that we are okay to talk to. And it's not just us, it's teachers as well. And then the teachers will make that referral to us when they feel like it's necessary, and then we'll talk with you. And sometimes it's just okay to just, hey, you need just a check-in or something like that. Some of the kids need a little more than that. It's, we have our step team, Mr. Aaron, Miss Rachel. And then sometimes some students need even more than that, and we need to make some outside referrals and feel like that. But I think it's really about, again, it's that visibility, putting it out there, letting people know that it's safe to do that. And I'm not going to call your parent, I mean, that's a big thing. It's no, I'm not going to call your parent. What you say to me, it's confidential. It stays here. Are you going to hurt yourself? No. Are you going to hurt somebody else? No. And then we're good. As long as those 2 things are met, we're good. We can have a conversation. Nobody needs to know what's covered.
How can schools strike a balance between academic expectations and the mental health needs of students?
I've seen a lot of teachers kind of implement, or I've seen one of my teachers implement tutoring in her free periods and in advisory, and I think that is helping her class a lot, because I see a lot of people going in for tutoring every day because it's my advisory, and I have the same advisory for the same math teacher, but sometimes I do go to that tutoring if I really need help, and I see a lot of students taking advantage of that tutoring and seeing like, oh, I'm having trouble on the homework that you gave us. Can you help me with like 1 or 2 problems in advisory? And it's really beneficial. And yeah, I think I've seen a lot of people go there, and that kind of like helps with your mental health, because you are getting that like alleviated help that you need, and kind of reaching out too. And I think that like talking to parents about realistic expectations of their students, and like kind of looking at their history of their mental health, and from a parent's perspective, like what can they do to help their student kind of alleviate those stresses in their lives, and having those realistic expectations is really beneficial to the student, so that way we can kind of have a balance of academic expectation with mental health.
I've worked in a lot of schools in the district, and I think from a counselor's perspective, the relationship between the counselors and the teachers makes such a difference in the overall well-being of the students, because when you have that openness of not just the teachers referring students to counselors, but also counselors that feel comfortable saying to a teacher, I've had 5 kids from your class come in the past week melting down because of X, Y, and Z. Like, what's happening in class? That we can have those open conversations and kind of help teachers navigate situations where they may accidentally, unknowingly be causing an undue amount of stress.
Right, and I feel like a teacher who does really good with like helping students balance academics and like mental health is Miss Tuff. I mean, she's a psychology teacher, so it kind of like is her job or like plays into her role. But she's really good at just like allowing students to take breaks. I know there is a lot of like a couple staff members or like a couple teachers like where you ask them a question and they go, well, you can figure it out, or well, just look back at your notes and it's like, well, I'm asking you because I do need help. I tried that already. And I feel like, I don't know, just like being receptive to your students needing help, because if I ask you a question and you're telling me I can figure it out, that's not helping me, that's making me more stressed. So it's like I feel like when teachers are receptive to what you actually need help with, it helps me when I go home and I need to do my homework. It helps me so much greater than just being in class trying to get an A. It also helps me like be able to go to sleep at night knowing, okay, I did what I needed to do today. I don't have like missing assignments or incomplete work. I don't feel like I'm gonna fail. It's just like, okay, I asked you a question, you helped me. Now when I go home, I can do my homework and I can go about my day rather than having to stress about school my entire life, or like my entire 7 days out of the week.
Yeah, and that concludes our podcast. Before we end, I'd like to give our panelists a moment to share any lasting message or advice they have for our listeners. Let's start with Trinity.
I feel like since this is a mental health podcast, definitely take your breaks, drink your water. Sometimes if you need help and you're not getting it, you can always, you always have somebody to talk to. Because I feel like there's certain people that feel like they have no one, and 9 times out of 10 that's not true. So just find your people, take your breaks, take your days off, drink your water, build your routine, and you got this.
I think that just be gentle with yourself. Know what your limits are, and know how you can improve. But always remind yourself that you are human. You're gonna make mistakes. Be gentle on yourself.
Give yourself credit for the things that you are doing that are so amazing and impressive. Even if today that thing is just showing up to school, give yourself credit for it. That is enough some days, and it deserves praise.
I think talk to people, communicate.
Awesome. Thank you all for coming.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks to our guests today and for listening. Stay tuned for the next episode of the Talk for Health podcast, and keep your eyes open to the Mental Health Attention Initiative and Instagram at @Phila_MHA for more updates. Hope to see you again.